Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today it's all about you, and something a lot of you have been asking for: the power of positive thinking.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
It is. It is. We're going to be digging into a script we got based on Norman Vincent Peale's The Power of Positive Thinking.
Classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. And we are going to be talking about how your thoughts can shape your reality, how to rewire your brain for success, and conquer your fears to reach your goals.
It's so interesting how Peele's work, was written decades ago, but it still resonates today.
Oh yeah.
There's a real science behind positive thinking, and it's definitely more than just wishful thinking.
For sure, for sure. Well, let's jump right into it with this idea of the mind as a magnet.
Okay.
Peale uses this analogy to explain how our thoughts can attract matching outcomes. And he actually shares a story about a businessman who completely turned his failing company around just by shifting his focus from worrying about losses to visualizing success.
That's a great example of the self-fulfilling prophecy in action. Peele argues that when we dwell on negative thoughts, we create roadblocks in our minds. But when we cultivate positive thoughts, it's like we open up these pathways to achievement,
Right.
almost like priming our brains for success or failure.
Makes you think about, what am I feeding my mind on a daily basis? Are my thoughts helping me get closer to my goals, or are they holding me back?
Such a great question to ask yourself, and it's a perfect lead-in to Peele's idea of using affirmations to reprogram our brains for success.
So let's talk about affirmations.
Yeah.
We've all heard of them, those positive statements you repeat to yourself, but do they actually work? Or are they just some kind of feel-good placebo?
Well, this is where the science gets interesting. There's actually research showing that repeating affirmations can change the structure of our brains.
Whoa.
Yeah, studies in neuroplasticity have shown that affirmations can strengthen specific neural pathways that are associated with positive emotions, self-confidence, and goal achievement.
So it's not just about thinking positive thoughts, it's about training your brain to believe them on a deeper level.
Exactly. And Peele offers this really practical exercise to start rewiring those neural pathways.
Okay.
He suggests looking in the mirror each morning and saying, I believe in myself, I have the power to succeed. It sounds simple, but consistency is key.
Right. I can see how doing that every day could really start to shift your mindset over time. It's like replacing those old negative programs with new positive ones.
Yeah.
It's like giving your brain a software upgrade.
That is a great analogy. And speaking of obstacles to success, Peele dedicates a significant portion of his book to overcoming fear.
Okay.
He argues that fear is the biggest dream killer, keeping us stuck in our comfort zones and preventing us from taking leaps of faith.
Yeah, I think fear is definitely something we can all relate to. It's like this invisible barrier that keeps us from going after the things we really want in life.
And what's fascinating is that Peele doesn't see fear as this unconquerable monster. He calls it a habit. Yeah, he believes that just like any bad habit, fear can be broken. And the key, he says, is taking action in spite of the fear.
Okay.
He uses the example of public speaking, something that terrifies a lot of people. But he says that often the anticipation of the event is far worse than the event itself.
So the more we avoid something we're afraid of, the bigger and scarier it becomes in our minds.
Yeah.
But when we actually face it head on, it often loses its power over us.
Exactly. And that action, that willingness to step outside of our comfort zones is what ultimately diminishes the fear.
Okay, so action is the antidote to fear. But what if you're completely frozen by fear? What if you can't even take that first step? Does Peele offer any strategies for dealing with that level of fear?
He does. He calls it the what's the worst that could happen strategy.
Okay.
It's incredibly simple, but surprisingly effective, basically. When fear takes hold, instead of letting it paralyze you, confront it head on. Ask yourself, what's the absolute worst thing that could happen if I do this?
So you're kind of calling fear's bluff, forcing it to reveal its hand?
Exactly. And you often find that the worst case scenario isn't nearly as catastrophic as your mind made it seem, and that realization can be so liberating.
Right.
It frees you to experiment, try new things, pursue those dreams you've been putting off because of fear.
I like that. That reminds me of that saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It makes you think about the kind of energy you're surrounding yourself with.
That's a great point, and it ties in perfectly with Peele's emphasis on the importance of our environment. He believed that surrounding yourself with negative people who doubt you, criticize you, or just drain your energy can significantly impact your ability to succeed.
It's like you're constantly battling against this current of negativity. So how do you break free from that and create a more positive and supportive environment for yourself?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll dive into in the next part of our deep dive.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you there. Welcome back. It's really cool to think that we can actually, shape our reality through our thoughts and actions.
Definitely. And building on that idea of shaping our reality, let's talk about creating a positive and supportive environment.
Yeah, we were just touching on that at the end of the last part. How Peale believed that our environment has a huge impact on our mindset and our ability to achieve our goals.
He did. He argued that the people we surround ourselves with can either fuel our aspirations or hold us back.
Interesting.
He even said that we should be intentional about who we choose as our friends and associates.
So it's not enough to just work on our own thoughts and beliefs. We also need to be aware of the energy we're allowing into our lives from other people.
Exactly. He called this the principle of radiation.
Hmm.
He believed that people radiate positive or negative energy, and we absorb the energy of those around us, like a garden.
Yeah.
If you plant a healthy seed in fertile soil and nurture it with sunshine and water, it'll thrive.
Okay.
But if you plant that same seed in poor soil and neglect it, it'll wither and die.
Wow, that's a powerful analogy.
Yeah,
So basically, we need to surround ourselves with people who are like sunshine and water for our dreams.
exactly. Seek out people who are positive, supportive, and encouraging, and limit your exposure to people who are negative, critical, or draining.
That makes a lot of sense, but how do you actually do that in real life?
Yeah,
Sometimes you can't just choose who you interact with, especially at work or with family.
that's true. You can't always control who you're around, but you can control how much you engage with them and how much you allow their energy to affect you. Peale suggested setting boundaries with negative people, limiting your time with them and consciously focusing on the positive aspects of your interactions.
So it's not about cutting people out of your life completely, but more about protecting your own mental and emotional space.
Right. It's about being proactive in creating a positive environment for yourself, even if you can't control everything around you.
I like that. And I think it's also important to remember that creating a positive environment isn't just about the people around us. It's also about the information we consume.
That's a great point. Peale recognized that what we read, watch, and listen to has a huge impact on our thinking and our emotional state. He encouraged people to be mindful of their media diet, just like they would be mindful of their food choices.
It's like we have this buffet of information available to us, and we can choose to fill our plates with nourishing, uplifting content, or we can overload on junk food for the mind.
Exactly. And just like junk food, negative news, gossip, and violent media can weigh us down emotionally and mentally.
So how do we create a healthier media diet for ourselves? Where do we even begin?
Peale suggested starting by becoming aware of how you feel after consuming certain types of media.
Okay.
Do you feel energized after reading a particular book? Or do you feel drained and anxious after watching the news? Pay attention to those emotional responses and adjust accordingly.
So if something makes you feel bad consistently, maybe it's time to hit unsubscribe or switch the channel.
Exactly. And there are so many resources available to us that can uplift and inspire. Seek out books, podcasts, documentaries, and websites that focus on positivity, personal growth, and stories of hope and resilience.
Right? And fill your social media feeds with accounts that share positive messages.
And don't forget the power of music.
Oh yeah, music can totally change your mood.
Absolutely. Create playlists that inspire you or just make you feel good.
So we talked about people and media. What about our physical environment? Does that play a role in creating a positive mindset too?
It absolutely does. Peale believed that our physical surroundings can impact our well-being. He encouraged people to create spaces that feel calm, inviting, and inspiring.
So what can we do to create a more positive physical environment? We're not all interior designers.
You don't have to be. Peale believed that clutter can be a source of stress. So just decluttering and organizing can make a big difference.
Right, when my desk is a mess, I feel so much more overwhelmed.
Exactly, and the opposite is true too. When our surroundings are clean and organized, we feel calmer and more focused.
So decluttering is a good place to start. What else?
Let in as much natural light as possible. Natural light boosts your mood and energy, and if you can add some plants to your space,
Oh yeah, plants are great.
they purify the air and bring in a sense of nature and tranquility.
And don't forget about personal touches. Surround yourself with things that make you happy. Photos of loved ones, inspiring artwork, meaningful objects.
Absolutely, make your space a reflection of you and your aspirations.
It's amazing how a few simple changes can really transform the energy of a space. And I think it all ties back to this idea of taking ownership of our reality. We're not just passive recipients of our environment. We can shape it and create a world that supports our well-being and our dreams.
I love that. And I think it's a perfect segue into the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some more techniques for putting all of these principles into action.
All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the power of positive thinking.
Yes.
We've talked about how our thoughts become our reality and how to create a supportive environment to reach our goals.
We have. And now let's talk about how to put all these principles into action.
Okay, because Peale wasn't all talk, right?
No, he was a big believer in actually using positive thinking.
So how do we make real-life changes using all these insights?
Well, Peale thought one of the best ways to use the power of positive thinking was through daily practice.
Okay.
Like setting up positive rituals that reinforce a positive mindset.
What kind of rituals?
He really encouraged people to start each day with a few minutes of quiet reflection and gratitude. Taking time to be thankful for the good things in your life sets a positive tone for the day.
That makes sense. It's like telling your brain to focus on the good stuff instead of all the bad.
Right, and it doesn't have to be a super long thing. Even just 5 minutes can make a difference.
So starting the day with gratitude is one ritual. What else?
He was a big fan of visualization.
Okay.
Imagining yourself achieving your goals can actually help you reach them.
I've heard about visualization, but I've always been kind of skeptical. Is there any science behind it?
There is. Studies have shown that visualization can activate the same neural pathways in the brain as actually doing the action. Yeah, so your brain doesn't really know the difference between thinking about it and actually doing it.
So if we visualize ourselves being successful, we're basically training our brains for success.
Exactly. And Peale said that the more details you add and the more emotions you put into the visualization, the more it works.
So it's like a whole mind and body experience.
Yeah, don't be afraid to get creative. Create a vision board, write a story about your future success, or even act it out in your mind.
Those are some really cool ideas. And I think it shows that this isn't about passively hoping for the best. It's about really putting in the effort.
Yes, and it's about making positive thinking a habit. Peale believed that just like we develop bad habits, we can train ourselves to think positively.
Until it becomes like second nature.
Exactly. Instead of forcing yourself to think positively, it just happens naturally.
And the more we practice, the easier it gets.
Right. And the more we see positive results, the more motivated we are to keep going.
It's a cycle of good vibes.
It is. And it's important to remember this is a journey, not a destination. There will be times when we slip back into negative thinking. We'll have setbacks and challenges. But the key is to keep practicing learning and growing.
And to not be so hard on ourselves.
Absolutely. Self-compassion is so important. Peale said that we are all a work in progress.
I love that. It's so easy to get caught up in being perfect.
Yeah.
But really, it's about making progress, not being perfect.
Perfectly said, and I think that's a perfect way to wrap up our deep dive.
Yeah.
We hope you found this exploration of positive thinking helpful and inspiring. Remember, you have the power to shape your own reality. So start thinking positively, create a supportive environment for yourself, and embrace those daily rituals that strengthen your belief in yourself and your dreams.
That's great advice. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. Until next time, stay curious, stay positive, and keep diving deep.